A man is pushed on the train tracks at the one line, and the Democrats do absolutely nothing about it.
Illuminati is a thing you need to watch out for. They want to depopulate and slave us so much more. World domination, I'll get into that later. I'm hardcore, fierce and sexy. You're just a hater. You deserve the ridicule because you're an absolute zero. I'm the keeper of the chalice, a rock and roll hero. I'm not an idiot nobody listens to because I'm not a failure in life like you. Let's talk about Bill Gates and the mark of the beast and the orgies in the streets at the Catholic feasts and Bill and Hillary's human trafficking ring. And George Soros got the money to pay for everything. Socialism is for losers, working for the devil. Chumps that can't fight, they ain't on my level. It takes an evil one to try to debunk and doubt it, so I'd rather die than stop talking about it. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out for the Illuminati.
Welcome to the MC Too Tall Show. I'm your hardcore, fierce, and sexy host, MC Too Tall. And we got this to talk about now. Okay? And I hope you like the intro with the echo in my voice to make things sound a little bit more dramatic, because it is a serious issue. People are getting pushed on the train tracks more and more now than ever before, and a lot of it goes unreported. This particular one I happened to snag from the news, I guess because it was in Midtown on 50th Street on the one line, and on the Bronx bound tracks. Someone got pushed onto the train tracks. The person ran away. The guy was able to climb his way back up to safety. He still had to be treated for injuries at a nearby hospital. And, well, it's reaching like epidemic proportions. You just don't hear about it because it happens so often that in this blue city that we live in, people are like, another one. And that's where the problem lies. This shouldn't have to be, okay? And that's, again, because the Democrats are in charge here. You know, you got Eric Adams, yeah, he's running as an independent, but he served as mayor as a Democrat. He's running for his second term as an independent, and God forbid if he wins, he'll switch back to Democrat. We gotta like cancel all that out, and we gotta get Sleeper in there. A big issue is mental illness. You got Curtis Sleeper goes out there, and he talks to the homeless people. He talks to the people who are mentally ill. He tries to find shelters for these people. Because you got illegal migrants filling up these hotel rooms and things like that. But meanwhile, there's homeless veterans that have nothing. They have nothing. And, you know, these guys are living in lavish hotels. They give them room service, and they're complaining about the room service. You know, you could have stayed home and ate sand, you know, or pound sand, whatever. And so, because of that, you have a lot of homeless in the streets. You have a lot of mentally ill homeless running around in the streets, crawling down into the subways. And as a result of that, you get these random pushings onto subway tracks. And luckily, this one happened to climb back up to safety. But you don't know the stats. I worked for New York City Transit. There are things that don't make the news. Like I remember when I was working the 2nd Avenue train station. True story. Bunch of customers come up to the booth. They're telling me that somebody is down on the tracks, and this wasn't a guy that was pushed. He thought he was Superman. He thought he could punch the train and wreck the train or something. But it ended sadly because the guy didn't make it out alive. And judging from what I saw from the shape of the body bag and things, you could see the freaking the imprint of something rolling around, trying to roll off the top onto the bottom. That that the guy got decapitated. And this is a true story. These things really happen. This thing didn't make the news, but I saw something like that. I could have gotten time off for the mental impact that it had on me. But I showed up for work the next day and did my thing. And shout out to all the people out there that bust their ass and go out and do these menial labor jobs, and they freaking make ends meet. They're not out there flossing, saying, "See what I got? Look what I got." Let me take off my shirt and throw money I don't have at the camera to make some rap video. I was never about that life. I never believed in that type of stuff. Even if I came into money like that, I never freaking flaunted it like that. But it doesn't change the fact that there are people that get hit by trains on a regular basis. I mean, hell, I spoke to a person that lost his foot. And got like $10,000 for his troubles that he spent on God knows what. I think he spent it on drinking because the guy wanted to show off in the clubs. But this is what's going on. People like that roam through the subways, and sometimes they're the perp, sometimes they're the victim. And in the case I just mentioned, the guy was the victim. But when I mentioned at the beginning of the video, of course, the guy is the perp pushing somebody down onto the tracks. And they didn't give a description of what the guy looked like. Either they couldn't make out who the guy was, or when they don't give a description of what the guy looks like, it means that the guy is not white, because you know how it is in the news. When a white guy does something, they make it a point to say that the guy is white. When the guy's not white, they never say that the guy is not white. And it makes people think that white people are doing this and only white people are doing this, or that a larger percentage of people that do dumb shit like this are white people. And come on with that. You gotta stop with that, because when people think that, all of a sudden there's big riots and things like that, and the white women join in on the anti-white rhetoric and join in on riots. Next thing you know, the news goes all the way to Cincinnati, and black people see a white person walking down the street, they deck him out, and then the women join in, kicking the person. And if a white lady is a little bit reasonable and tries to break it up, she gets clocked in the face and knocked out cold. And that's another thing with the news. They gotta stop this nonsense with rushing to say if the guy's white, but if they're not white, don't say nothing. And that's just wrong. You gotta be balanced. You gotta have balance in this world. world would be a lot better place if the media knew how to balance their stories. But, so we don't know why they didn't give a description of the culprit. Either they really didn't get a good description of him, or the person wasn't white and they don't want to say he's not white. And you don't know that because there's no composite sketch, nothing. And so this is what we have going on. If the person has a COVID mask on, you know it's one of the bad guys that fears a germ that isn't there, but is okay to be aggressive and push people onto subway tracks. And yeah, nobody knows who did this. But you know, knock wood, the guy freaking climbed to safety. And where it ties in is that it's because of the Democrats. Look who's been running the city. Look who's been running the state. You have Kathy Huckster Hochul up there bragging that New York State will always be a red state, New York City will always be a red city, and it's just horrible that she sees that as something to brag about, considering the record of the Democrats on public safety. We got to get Sliwa into City Hall. We really do, because this is a mess. It's a mess going on out here. Between people being pushed on the subway tracks, between people raiding Rite Aid and CVS, and Curtis Sliwa brought up an interesting point. We lock up our toothpaste, but we don't lock up our criminals. We don't lock up our criminal elements, but we'll lock up the friggin' toothpaste and shaving cream. Give me a break here. Give me a freaking break. These people are running around rampant wild like untamed animals. And it's like a free-for-all out there. It's becoming like the friggin' Mad Max movies. Or Death Wish 3. I don't know if you guys saw Death Wish 3, but it was a very chaotic movie. It got to a point where Charles Bronson had to put down the .38 and pick up a friggin' grenade launcher and walk up to a guy sitting on a stoop to blow him away. And it's getting pretty bad, man. And this is why people like Bernie Goetz emerge. Remember how bad the subways were in the freaking 80s, right? And that was the recipe for someone like Bernie Goetz to emerge. He had a concealed weapon. He was mugged before. He didn't want to get mugged again. He saw the signs he was about to get mugged again. He shot 4 people. He put out too many details on what happened, and it ended up incriminating him. He had to do a little bit of jail time. He went to Florida, and I think for the rest of his life, no matter where he goes in the country, he cannot apply for a gun license, because they think he'll go cuckoo and just start randomly using it on people that he suspects are muggers, which I think is not fair to him. But part of that bed is what he made. And then you get people like Daniel Penny, who actually saved the lives of people in an entire train. Not just that one train car, but the entire train. Because you had some lunatic running around threatening people. Yeah, you know, he bumps into this guy Jordan Neal. He bumps into a baby carriage, threatens to kill the woman who had the carriage and the baby in it. He was going berserk, and Daniel Penny puts a sleeper on him. No intent to kill the guy. He just, just to like put him out for a minute, uh, send him to La La Land. And apparently he took a detour and ended up in eternal afterlife instead. But Jordan Neely was a menace to the city, especially in that area where he had gotten on the train. And people thought he was this innocent Michael Jackson impersonator. But you had people doing articles about him on Reddit for like a decade, talking about how he was increasingly more and more dangerous, more and more volatile, more and more erratic, and irrational. And there were people that felt threatened in his presence, and they were typing about it on Reddit and these other different lesser popular social sites. And finally, somebody puts him to sleep. He doesn't wake up from it because he was all drugged up. Nobody mentions that. He was all drugged up. And had he not been all drugged up, he probably would have woken up from that. But this was a person talking about pushing people on the train tracks. He was a guy that was known for pushing people onto train tracks. He didn't get anybody killed. He didn't murder anybody, but he punched an old lady in the face, like clocked her the way a big dude like me would like clock another big dude in the face in some bar fight. And that's how Jordan Neely punched this little old lady in the face. I mean, I think there was a case where he tried kidnapping a child. And it gets back to what I was saying. You got mentally ill people out there, and the Democrats are doing nothing about it. And mind you, these people could vote. These people could vote for president. They could vote for governor, mayor, whatever. So, these people are in an element that they might like, but it's not safe for the rest of us. And they're gonna think, hey, I'm living my best life, pushing people onto subway tracks and punching old ladies in the face because of Kathy Hochul. I'm gonna go into the polls and I'm gonna vote for Kathy Hochul. And that's what it's about. They care more about votes than public safety, all the way up to the federal level, obviously, because Joe Biden lets millions of trespassers in. He just takes the lock off the door and lets a bunch of people raid the home, so to speak. It'd be like let's say your parents, God forbid, get divorced, right? And you had a secure house, the doors were locked, you had a guard dog, and you were safe in your home. And the guard dog act like a lovable family pet to you, but God forbid an intruder want to get past that locked door. And then all of a sudden, God forbid, your parents get divorced and your stepfather says, oh, we don't need a dog. Puts the dog up for adoption and hacks the lock off the door. And next thing you know, your freaking teddy bear's missing, your VHS machine is missing, somebody's putting a knife to your baby sister's throat. What Joe Biden did to the country is the equivalent to that. And people don't want to understand it. People don't want to put it in this type of perspective, but that is the reality of it, is that it's a similar perspective. And people don't want to face that and understand that the Democrats ruined the country, and they ruin every state to which they are governor, they ruin every city to which they are mayor or county executive, and it, they just ruin things because they're doing things to pull in votes. So they just give shit away to be everybody's friend with no regard for the outcome, because they live in gated communities, or they live in a governor's mansion. They live in a place like Gracie Mansion, and in Joe Biden's case, he lived in the damn White House. And so everything's hunky-dory with them. They got guards all around them. They're protected. So when they give criminal elements their freedom and they give it away like they're Santa Claus, they don't realize that these people, these criminal elements, are going out there becoming Krampus. And like literally stealing lives of people, robbing children of their childhoods by molesting them and touching up on them and doing all kinds of nasty things that you're not supposed to be doing with kids. And the Democrats allow this because I believe, I don't have any hard concrete evidence of it except a few sex scandals by some people like Anthony Weiner, but I think they enjoy it and they participate in a little bit of that kind of action themselves. And there's where the problem lies, is that the Democrats, they want to clamp down on normal, regular people like you and me, and then give all these criminal elements, including and especially child molesters and child rapists, carte blanche on everything. Here, take the children, take the innocent children, and do what thou wilt. I'm your friend. Vote for me, okay? And that's their frickin' shtick. That's what they go on. This is why I say crime runs rampant because of the Democrats. Because, quite frankly, it does. It does. And the less Democrats in power, the better. And I don't believe I'm screaming into the void. I think there are people watching this broadcast, and I do believe I reach some people out there. I think I reach at least a few hundred every 6 hours or whatever that say, hey, you know what? This guy's got a point. And, I might not see the viewer count in my thing because, these networks like YouTube like to suppress that information. So when they display a smaller number than what really is, they're going to think, they're going to make people just gloss past me like I'm some kind of nobody. But in reality, I am reaching a lot of people, not just on YouTube, but on Facebook, on X, on Instagram. I have Rumble too. I could always flee to Rumble if anything happens to my YouTube account, which I doubt it will, because I toned a lot of my stuff down. As a matter of fact, my music videos are more dangerous than my political commentary videos. So, here's where we're at here. And so, people get pushed down onto subway tracks because of the Democrats. You didn't hear about that when Giuliani was mayor. I was working in New York City subway, where we get firsthand knowledge on who gets pushed down onto a subway track while we had a Republican mayor. And we didn't have any incident like that. When that guy jumped down on his own to try to beat up the train and lost his head for it, that was while Bill de Blasio was mayor, a Democrat. And you're saying, well, how is that Bill de Blasio's fault that this guy jumped out? Because this guy would have been in an insane asylum or at a mental hospital getting proper care from trained professionals and not down on those subway tracks getting his head sheared off by the wheels of a subway car if there was a Republican mayor. And so things like that happen because of the Democrats. Democrats love to mismanage things. They mismanage things on purpose so that they're got this image. They want to convey this image like they're doing nice things for the forgotten class. Meanwhile, they're forgetting the people who bust their ass and make ends meet. They're forced into two-income households because very rarely could a person make enough money to make a living on their own, and they have to file in with other people to make money and barely grab something they could get from the bodega on their way to work to get their breakfast, and lunch pretty much the same thing, and at dinner time pick up something probably from that same bodega on the way home, and this is their life. Maybe on the weekend they could stack up on frickin' these cheap, unhealthy TV dinners so they could stick it in a microwave and have a microwave dinner on their days off. And when they go out to a restaurant, they notice they're like one of maybe 3 tables that are filled up in that restaurant because nobody could afford to be there, but they don't realize that nobody could afford to be there until the check comes, and they have to contemplate on draining their bank account or doing the dishes that night. Is because of the Democrats. You don't see things like that happening in cities run by Republican mayors, even in Democrat states. And yeah, there's quite a few places in New York State that have Republican mayors, and everything's clean. You wouldn't believe you're in the state of New York. You wouldn't believe you're in the same state that New York City happens to be in when you go to these nice cities. And no, they're not major metropolises, but they're not lazy small hick towns either. Although upstate New York does have its share of those as well. And they're run rather nicely as well, because they have Republican county executives or Republican mayors. And crime is almost down to zero. I mean, you can never get anything to be everyone or no one doing the same thing. You can never get a full 100% or 0% of anything. I mean, there's certain statistics where you'll get no absolutes. You could only get reductions by bringing in Republicans. I mean, vast reductions by bringing in Republicans, or disgustingly high increases by bringing in Democrats. And that's where the problem lies. The problem lies in the Democrats, man. The problem lies in the Democrats. Crime runs rampant because of the Democrats. People get pushed onto subway tracks because of the Democrats. We need a Republican mayor for a change, and stop picking on him for his beret. That beret actually means something. It actually represents public safety. It represents a group that he formed in 1979 in dedication to public safety. So, as I said, that beret is a symbol for public safety, and You guys got to stop pressuring Curtis to take that beret off. Let him keep that beret on all throughout his 8 years of mayorship. And God willing, we get him in there. I mean, his numbers are looking a lot better now. You're seeing some of the Mamdani numbers falter a little bit. Cuomo and Adams are still in the cellar fighting over who Trump likes more after the both of them spent, 4 years pissing him off. Unbelievable. Just vote Curtis Sliwa and respect God. Watch out for the Illuminati. Follow and share this. Subscribe to my channel. Tell all your friends about me. Stay strong. Keep kicking that slang. It's your boy in the building. Hip-hop legend, recording engineer, underground rock and roll hero. Ask a goth friend about me and they'll know who I am. I'm MC Too Tall. Be good.